There are moments in life when the universe whispers before it speaks, and if you've ever been hurt deeply, betrayed, lied to, used, humiliated, there comes a day when you suddenly feel the shift. A quiet pull in the atmosphere, a strange peace in your chest, a sense that something bigger than you has taken over the situation. That feeling is karma clocking in. Marcus Aurelius said, "The wrongdoer hurts himself most of all." Seneca taught that truth always finds its way back to the surface. Epictetus reminded us that character writes destiny. And Einstein believed the universe is built on perfect balance, nothing escapes it, and tonight, I want you to listen very closely. Because if you've been carrying silent pain, if someone thought they got away with hurting you, if they walked off smiling while you wiped your tears, stay right here with me. I'm about to reveal 8 powerful signs that karma has already started dealing with those who hurt you. Not tomorrow, not in the future, but right now, quietly, naturally, and inevitably. Some of these signs will shock you, some will finally make sense of everything you've felt, and some will give you the closure you never received. So breathe, relax your shoulders, and stay with me till the very end of this video, because understanding these 8 signs may be the final step in your healing. And before we begin, tap that subscribe button and join the inner fortress. This is where you grow stronger, wiser, and untouchable from the inside out. Shall we begin? 1. When silence begins answering for you. There is a moment in every healing journey when silence becomes your sharpest form of clarity. It's not the silence of defeat or exhaustion. It's the silence of a soul that has finally realized its worth. You stop explaining your pain to people who enjoyed causing it. You stop chasing validation from those who were comfortable watching you break. And you stop pouring your heart into conversations with people who already made up their minds about you. This kind of silence isn't empty, it's powerful. It's the beginning of karma's quiet movement. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who harmed you." In your silence, you become unlike them. You choose peace over ego, you choose dignity over argument. You choose emotional maturity over chaos. And when you choose silence, you give karma the space to breathe. You allow the natural consequences of their actions to unfold without interference. People who hurt you often expect you to fight, panic, beg, or react. But when you stop reacting, they begin reacting to themselves. They become trapped inside the noise of their own conscience, the one they've been trying to avoid. Your silence becomes the mirror they never wanted to look into. Seneca said, "Every guilty person is his own hangman." This is exactly what happens when you walk away quietly. They begin to replay what they did, not because they care, but because karma starts peeling away their distractions. A person who betrayed you begins questioning whether others will betray them. A person who lied to you starts wondering if people are lying to them. A person who took you for granted starts noticing how replaceable they are to others. Your silence doesn't hurt them, their conscience does. Let me give you a human story. There was a woman whose best friend betrayed her by revealing something deeply personal. She confronted her once, calmly, and when her friend laughed it off, she walked away without another word. Months later, the friend noticed everyone around her becoming distant. The same people she once gossiped with began gossiping about her. The same friend group she used to manipulate slowly turned cold. She tried reconnecting with the woman she hurt, but the silence was unbreakable. She wasn't being punished. She was simply living inside the consequences of her choices. Epictetus famously taught, "It is not the actions of others that disturb us, but our perception of them." Your silence changes that perception. When you stop speaking, people finally hear their own behavior. Einstein added another truth: you cannot solve problems with the same thinking that created them. When you become silent, you force the person who wronged you to sit with the thoughts they've spent years running from. Your silence is their accountability. Your absence becomes the presence they can't escape. And slowly, without you lifting a finger, life begins answering questions you once cried over. Silence is not withdrawal, it is elevation. It is detachment from chaos. It is the point where you grow so much internally that the person who hurt you no longer recognizes who you've become. If you're listening right now, trust this: silence is not weakness. It's the beginning of a new level of self-respect. And karma does its best work when your hands are clean. If you want more strength building content like this, make sure you subscribe to the Inner Fortress. Your healing belongs to you, not the people who hurt you. 2. When their life becomes a mirror. Life has a way of showing people exactly who they are by reflecting their actions back at them. This reflection doesn't come instantly, and it doesn't always come from the same people they hurt. But it always comes, because the universe, as Einstein said, is wired for balance. Energy never disappears, it simply returns to its source. And this is where karma becomes undeniable. People begin facing the same pain they once created. Imagine someone treated you casually, like you were easy to replace. They ghosted you whenever it was convenient, dismissed your emotions, or made you feel like you didn't matter. At the time, you blamed yourself. You asked what you did wrong. But life has a way of showing you that it was never about you, it was about them. Months later, they meet someone they deeply want. And that person treats them with the same indifference they once showed you. Suddenly, they understand everything. Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe has changed, our life is what our thoughts make it." This means people eventually create their own fate through their behavior. If their thoughts are selfish, their life becomes lonely. If their actions are manipulative, their relationships become unstable. When someone hurts you, life doesn't punish them, it simply reflects them. Here's a story you'll recognize. A man had a girlfriend who loved him deeply. She supported him, encouraged him, protected him, and gave him loyalty most people never find. But he treated her as a backup plan. He flirted with others, made her feel unwanted, and took advantage of her love. When she finally walked away, he shrugged it off. She'll be replaced, he told himself. But the next woman he met didn't love him. She only tolerated him. She talked down to him, ignored his messages, made him feel insecure, questioned his worth, and treated him exactly how he treated the woman who truly cared. One night, after being dismissed again, he felt a wave of pain he had never experienced before. And in that moment, he realized he wasn't unlucky, he was meeting himself. Seneca said, "You cannot escape necessity." The necessity here is moral balance. Life teaches through parallels. The same story from a different angle becomes a mirror. And there's no running from a mirror. Einstein believed that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Emotionally, this plays out when someone finally meets the consequences of their past behavior. Not because they're being punished, but because their actions return as their reality. And the beauty of it, you don't have to be present to see it, you don't have to hear about it. You don't even have to care anymore. The mirror appears whether you're watching or not. When this happens, people begin to understand the depth of the pain they caused. They may not admit it, they may not apologize. They may not reach out. But internally, they know. And knowing is its own form of karma. It forces self-awareness where there was once arrogance. When someone's life becomes a mirror, you realize you never lost. You simply experienced them before they experienced themselves. 3. When they start meeting their own behavior. This is one of the most profound forms of karma, when life sends someone their own behavior in a new form. Not as punishment, but as clarity. The kind of clarity that cracks pride and humbles ego. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Meaning people eventually become the very actions they repeatedly choose. Let's look at this deeply. A person who constantly manipulates others will eventually enter a situation where they themselves are manipulated. A person who lies will one day be lied to in a way that shakes their core. A person who plays with hearts will encounter someone who plays with theirs effortlessly. These moments aren't accidents, they're alignments. Einstein's philosophy of balance makes this clear. Actions generate reactions. Energy cycles. What you create eventually meets you. People who mistreat others build a future version of themselves that they eventually confront. Let me share a story that mirrors millions of lives. There was a man who had a partner who adored him. She cooked for him, stood by him, supported him, listened to him, defended him, and gave him emotional safety. But he didn't appreciate her. He flirted behind her back, ignored her needs, and treated her kindness like it was guaranteed. When she left, he was unbothered. But months later, he met someone who he believed was his person. He gave this new woman everything: attention, effort, energy. But instead of appreciating it, she breadcrumbed him. She chose him only when convenient. She ignored his messages. She flirted with others openly. She took advantage of his loyalty. And slowly, his heart began to break under the same weight he once placed on someone else. Epictetus described this perfectly when he said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." He used to laugh at the pain he caused. Now he couldn't sleep because of the pain someone else caused him. This is not revenge. This is karmic alignment. Seneca taught that character is fate. Not reputation, not luck, not timing, character. People don't meet punishment, they meet themselves. Here's the deeper truth. Life does not give people what they want, it gives them what they are. Someone who creates emotional chaos eventually lives in emotional chaos. Someone who takes people for granted eventually becomes taken for granted. Someone who devalues others eventually becomes devalued. And when this moment comes, something powerful happens inside them. They finally understand you. They finally understand the nights you cried, the confusion, the anxiety, the overthinking, the silent suffering. They finally meet the version of themselves they forced you to face. And that understanding is their karma. This is why you must never chase closure. Never chase apology. Never chase revenge. Life is already doing what you cannot. It is teaching them through experience. And experience is the one teacher no one can ignore. The moment they meet their own behavior is the moment karma becomes undeniable. 4. When everything built on lies begins to collapse. There comes a time when every lie begins to crumble under its own weight. People think they can build a comfortable life on dishonesty, manipulation, and deception, but lies are like weak foundations. They may hold for a while. They may even look stable from the outside. But eventually, they fall apart, because as Marcus Aurelius said, what stands in the way becomes the way. And the lies they used to hurt you become the very thing that destroys everything they tried to protect. When someone wrongs you, especially through deceit, it may feel like they've gotten away with it. They seem happy, they seem stable, they seem unbothered, but life has a habit of peeling back layers when people least expect it. The truth is patient. It waits. It watches, and then, at the right moment, it rises. Seneca once said, "Truth lies in wait and needs no assistance." When their life begins to unravel, you realize karma never forgot. Think of the person who lied about you to make themselves look better. Maybe they painted you as the villain so others would sympathize with them. Maybe they twisted the story to protect their ego. Maybe they used your trust to shield their guilt. For a while, the world believed them. But lies demand maintenance, and maintenance exhausts the liar. Eventually, inconsistencies show, people start noticing patterns, and the truth starts slipping through the cracks like water through cupped hands. Einstein believed that no false equation can hold forever. Energy always exposes what doesn't add up in life. Lies create a mathematical imbalance that cannot sustain itself. Sooner or later, the liar begins losing credibility. People around them start questioning their stories. Their social circle becomes unstable. Their romantic relationships lose trust. Work environments become tense. Gradually, the world they built on deception begins sinking, quietly at first, then dramatically. Here's a story that reflects millions of real lives. A man cheated on his partner and blamed her for being too emotional. He lied to friends, convincing them he had no choice. He lied to himself, telling his conscience he deserved better. For a while, he lived comfortably in those lies. But as time passed, every relationship he entered began falling apart for the same reason: dishonesty. He became the man no one believed, even when he finally told the truth. Not because people were cruel, but because life was holding him accountable. Epictetus said something profound: "What is false will fall by its own nature." People who hurt you with lies eventually face a collapse they cannot escape. Not because you retaliated, not because you wished them harm, but because the universe refuses to protect what was built on falsehood. When their lies collapse, you will not need to say a word. The truth will speak, life will speak, karma will speak, and you will understand that walking away was always enough. 5. When their circle turns against them. There is a very specific kind of karma that hits differently, the moment their own circle begins to treat them the way they treated you. Not out of revenge, not out of coincidence, but because energy attracts its own reflection. Marcus Aurelius said, "Your life is what your thoughts make it." Those who think in betrayal attract betrayal. Those who move in disrespect attract disrespect. Those who flex cruelty eventually live in an environment shaped by cruelty. Think about someone who hurt you but always appeared to have 100 supporters by their side. Friends who defended them, people who believed their lies. A circle that enabled their behavior. It used to bother you. It made you feel helpless because it seemed like they'd never face consequences. But here's what you didn't see: people who behave badly eventually create waves that push even their closest allies away. Seneca taught that character is a magnet. Eventually, the people around them begin noticing the manipulation, the selfishness, the dishonesty, the way they treat others. And slowly, the magnet that once attracted people begins repelling them. Let me give you a story. A woman used to mock her closest friend behind her back. She found pleasure in belittling her, spreading small rumors, and twisting stories for attention. People believed her, until they didn't. Years later, she found herself isolated. The same friends she manipulated turned cold. They whispered about her the way she once whispered about others. When she tried to defend herself, no one believed her. Why? Because her character finally became visible to everyone. Einstein wrote, "You cannot bend reality, it adjusts you." And when someone's reality is built on using others, life adjusts them by placing them among people who drain them, lie to them, or abandon them the same way they once did to you. Their circle turning against them is one of the clearest signs karma is active. Suddenly, people stop trusting them, people stop calling them, people stop inviting them. People stop believing them. It's not a curse, it's clarity. Epictetus said, "When you blame others, you give away your power." But people who hurt others spend their entire lives blaming. So when their circle collapses, they have no one left to point fingers at except themselves. This moment humbles them. This moment exposes them. This moment teaches them what they refused to learn when you were still in their life. And the universe, in its poetic balance, ensures they learn it from the people they trusted most. 6. When peace leaves their life. Peace is one of the most underrated forms of karma. People think karma is thunder and fire, something dramatic, loud, or catastrophic. But often, the strongest form of karma is simply the loss of inner peace. Marcus Aurelius said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But when someone hurts you, they give up that inner retreat without even realizing it. At first, they appear completely fine. Their life looks normal. They laugh, they socialize, they sleep. But over time, something small begins to shift. There's a heaviness in their spirit. Their thoughts become restless. Their nights become longer. Their mornings feel empty. Their heart becomes unsettled. Peace quietly walks out of their life. Einstein believed that you cannot disturb the harmony of the universe without disturbing yourself. Someone who caused chaos in your life begins living in chaos internally. Their mind becomes noisy. Their soul becomes uneasy. Their emotions become unpredictable. They start feeling watched, not by people, but by consequences. Seneca described guilt as a shadow that never leaves. Even if they don't admit it, even if they pretend they don't care, even if they act unbothered, they feel the weight. They feel the imbalance. They feel the universe responding. Here's a story. A man broke the heart of the only woman who ever loved him without conditions. He walked away laughing, acting untouchable. But a year later, despite having everything, money, friends, freedom, he felt nothing. No joy, no excitement, no fulfillment. His heart was restless. His mind was crowded. Peace had left him, and he couldn't buy it back. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And this is where karma stings hardest. They lose mastery of themselves. They lose calm. They lose clarity. They lose the ability to sleep peacefully. Peace is something only aligned hearts can enjoy. And when someone harms you, they misalign themselves with the universe. Their spirit becomes troubled. And before we go further, if you value peace, strength, and emotional power, make sure you subscribe to the Inner Fortress. This channel protects your mind, teaches you clarity, and helps you rise unshaken. 7. When their reputation quietly crumbles. Reputation is a strange thing. It takes years to build, but only one truth to destroy. People who hurt you often walk around with borrowed confidence, acting as though their actions are invisible to the world. But what they forget is what Marcus Aurelius warned long ago: what is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee. Meaning, you cannot harm others without eventually harming the perception of yourself. At first, the person who wronged you may appear perfectly fine in public. People still laugh at their jokes. They still get invited to gatherings. They still hold their social image together. But slowly, quietly, without drama or announcement, cracks appear. Their reputation begins to shift, not because you said anything, but because life did. Seneca said, "Every guilty man is his own thief." And truly, people destroy their own reputation long before anyone else does. Their actions catch up, their character becomes visible. Their patterns become undeniable. Here's how it usually happens. They lie so often that people eventually stop believing them. They betray so casually that people eventually stop trusting them. They manipulate so frequently that people eventually keep a safe distance. And suddenly, the social power they once held slips out of their hands. Einstein taught that energy leaves signatures, impressions. You cannot emit negative energy into others repeatedly and expect society to treat you positively forever. The universe doesn't allow that imbalance. Let me give you a story you've probably witnessed in your own life. There was a woman who pretended to be the perfect friend, but behind closed doors she belittled, mocked, and undermined the very people who supported her. For years she got away with it. People admired her, trusted her, included her. But as time passed, small inconsistencies in her behavior started showing. One friend noticed a pattern, then another, then a third. She didn't lose her reputation overnight. She lost it one subtle truth at a time, one exposed lie, one overheard comment, one person finally speaking up soon. No one trusted her words. No one confided in her. No one invited her into deep spaces of their life. She became socially present but emotionally irrelevant, a punishment far greater than isolation. Epictetus said, "Character is fate, not reputation, character." Reputation is simply character made public. When someone hurts you, they don't realize they are planting seeds of their own downfall. And when those seeds grow, they choke the very image the person tried so hard to protect. Their reputation fades not through drama, but through awareness, through observation, through the world finally seeing who they've always been. This is the silent karma, the kind that doesn't require your voice, your anger, or your involvement. Life reveals people, and when their reputation starts to crumble, they learn that truth has a longer memory than lies. 8. When life makes them feel what they made you feel. This is the karma that hits the deepest, the hardest, and the most undeniably. It's the moment life recreates the experience they once put you through, and places them on the receiving end. Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe is a kind of river, it carries all things along." Meaning, everything you put into the world eventually flows back to you. Someone who hurt you emotionally will one day feel emotional pain so sharp it wakes them. Someone who abandoned you will one day feel abandoned at the moment they need someone most. Someone who rejected your loyalty will one day crave loyalty from someone who will refuse to give it. Someone who mocked your feelings will one day struggle to express their own. Einstein described the universe as a symmetrical system, everything seeks equilibrium. And nothing restores equilibrium like the moment a person is forced to feel the exact hurt they once created. Let's paint the story clearly. Imagine a man who dismissed his partner's tears, told her she was overreacting, ignored her messages, and treated her love like it was disposable. When she finally left, he assumed he won. He felt untouchable, but life was not finished with him. Months later, he met someone who triggered something different in him: attraction, hope, desire, vulnerability. And suddenly, he became the one who felt confused. He became the one anxiously waiting for replies. He became the one trying to fix things that were never stable. He became the one crying for something he couldn't control. He became you. This is not revenge. This is reflection. Seneca said, "He who does harm shall suffer harm." Not because someone punishes him, but because the universe requires understanding before healing. Epictetus added, "Circumstances do not make the man, they reveal him." And nothing reveals a person faster than experiencing the suffering they once created. When they finally feel the same pain they caused, something shifts. They understand your silence. They understand your tears. They understand your emotional exhaustion. They understand why you walked away. And perhaps the deepest truth of all, they finally understand your worth. When life hands them the same lesson, it is karma working with surgical precision. It is not loud, it is not violent, it is not rushed. It is fair, and if you're listening right now, I want you to breathe deeply and remind yourself. You never had to get revenge. You never had to prove anything. Life was already preparing the lesson. Before we end, make sure you subscribe to the Inner Fortress, where your emotional strength rises higher than the pain you survived. If you've reached this point, let this final message sink into your spirit. You were never defeated. You were never foolish. You were never weak for loving deeply. The hurt you carried wasn't a sign of your failure, it was a sign of your humanity. Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe is change, and every painful moment you endured became the seed of your transformation." Seneca reminded us that time reveals truth, and today you've seen how karma reveals people. Epictetus taught that we only control ourselves, and by choosing peace over revenge, you've already won. Einstein believed the universe balances itself perfectly, and now you know, nothing done against you was ever forgotten by life. So walk away with your head higher than before. Walk away knowing the universe has handled what your heart could not. Walk away knowing karma is not coming, karma already came. And before you go, I want you to do one thing. Subscribe to the inner fortress. This is where you rise. This is where you heal. This is where you become untouchable from the inside out. Until next time. Stand tall, stay calm, and trust the universe, because it has always been on your side.